You know, when you type in something into your phone and it gives you the AI answer, that takes as much energy as driving an electric vehicle a kilometer. If you think about all of the uses of AI and how quickly they're proliferating, we just have to produce a lot more energy. We made the Trump tax cuts permanent. If we had let those expire, it would have been the biggest tax hike in history. And that would not have been good for families, for the economy. I think Utah's going to be on the leading edge of this. And I think we should be on the leading edge of this. We're uniquely situated. You know, we have a lot of space in the West Desert, and we need jobs in those counties.
From the Blue Form Media Studios, this is the 435 Podcast, the pulse of Southern Utah.
If you're looking for a nice cup of coffee and you're in downtown St. George, FS Coffee Co., that's where you're going to want to stop. It's right there on the corner of Tabernacle and Main Street in downtown St. George. So if you got a bicycle, ride it on down there and grab a drip coffee and tell them the 435 guys sent you. Representative Celeste Maloy, how are you?
I'm doing well.
You're
How are
back.
you? It's
Third time.
It's been a little while. Yeah.
Right.
This is
But
my third time.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's technically my fourth time because last time we recorded in 2 different sessions.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
That was good.
I don't
we
think
might have
we've
to do
had-
it again.
Probably our longest or most recurring podcast guest.
Yeah, pretty close.
Right?
Yeah.
That should be worth like a mug or something.
Easy.
It
I
should,
should get
for
like a
sure.
gold star.
You
We'll-
should.
We'll figure
Yeah.
that out.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah.
The
Top fan.
Washington County Commissioners, they started their own podcast. And I
They
put
did?
I posted on Facebook. I was like, you could just come on to the 435 podcast like once a quarter and
Yeah, because
you
then
can get the
people will
same thing
actually listen
across.
to it.
See, now you just gave them free advertising. You're driving business to their podcast.
No one is going to that. Nobody's listening to the commissioners.
Sorry, Adam.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry, Adam.
I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear it from like the politicians. Like truthfully,
Oh, that is literally why I'm here.
I know, but they don't. They like the regular like the
'Cause you're gonna
normie.
ask
I
me
hate the name
questions.
normie, but it's like the normal everyday person out there. They're not like, oh, let me go subscribe to the
Yeah.
that individual. It's just not what they're interested in doing. So
If you do want to subscribe to what politicians say about themselves, go to my website
yeah,
and sign up for my newsletter because I put out a newsletter with a video every Friday
Yep.
that tells you what I've been up to. And, you know, sometimes people say, I wish I knew what you were doing. And if you want to, it's really easy to find out. You can
Mhm.
follow any of my social media, but I would still recommend signing up for the newsletter.
yeah. It's one of those accessibility things. It's like people are like, well, I didn't know that. It's like, well, because
Yeah.
you legitimately were not paying attention.
Yeah.
And you
If-
can't just go like, oh, well, my Google News feed gives me everything I need to know. It's
Right.
like, it's not going to
You
give
gotta
you
put some
everything
effort
know.
in.
You have to
if
put a little effort
none
in.
of your friends shared it on Facebook, then it didn't happen, right?
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you share stuff on Facebook, like Jeff and I, you think the algorithm would know that we spend more time together than we do with our own wives, and stuff he'll post I won't even see on Facebook. So it's like, how do you can't never know.
Can't
How
leave yourself
how are
to
you doing
mercy.
though? Are you sleeping? Are you eating well? Are you taking care of yourself?
Well, I'm here with a Dr. Pepper.
Which is all right. It's a zero.
It is,
Zero
it is
sugar.
a zero. I'm trying to be healthy. I am not sleeping as much as a human should sleep.
I know,
but
not
I'm
last time too.
sleeping more than I was last time you saw me. So
Okay, good.
baby steps. This
Baby
is
steps,
progress.
Yeah, you got to make progress.
Yeah. It's August recess. And you would think recess means like playground and relaxing, but
Yeah.
mostly it means a lot of work, but not in DC.
Yeah, just not in DC.
Yeah. But it's great. I
'Kay.
love being here.
Well, I'm glad you're here. You were
Me
in
too.
Montana.
Mhm.
I was in
Cooler weather.
Montana.
I saw you at the. Was that? That wasn't Jackson Lake. That's
It
good.
was Glacier National Park.
Glacier. The glacier.
So
I saw that.
I think it was Flathead Lake
Flathead.
or McDonald Lake. I saw both of them. I'm
Uh-huh.
not sure which one. We did
You
the
were up
video
there.
by.
Oh, you did.
Rob
Um,
was up there.
Yeah, it is really beautiful up there. That is a big park. Everything in it is just
Huge.
large.
Huge.
Yeah.
My
I
wife
mean,
wants to move to Montana now. I was
we
like,
know a few things about parks around here,
We do.
but our parks are pointy and orange, and theirs are large and green.
Yeah, large and green
With lots of snow.
with lots of
Yes.
water, and ours have no water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Montana has water issues.
They do have water issues.
They
They have
think
they do.
infrastructure issues.
Okay.
So they
And-
have challenges.
So
with,
even
And
when
parts
you
of it
have
are
a ton
wetter
of
than
water,
others.
you got to pump it somewhere and you got to get it, to the people.
So the tour guide who took us through the park said that at the top of the saddle we were looking at, they get 50 feet of snow per year.
Logan
50.
Pass.
Yeah, Logan Pass. That is exactly where it was.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And then less than 10 minutes later, he said, in an arid state like this, and I was like, 50 feet of snow and you think you're an arid state? Like, come on down to
Yeah.
southern Utah. Let's talk about
I mean,
aridity.
even northern Utah. I mean,
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
fair
we,
enough.
we can get a lot of snow up in the mountains,
I
but
guess maybe the east side of Montana, like the whole
Yeah, the
flat
prairie.
part, the prairie. Yeah.
Yeah, but and the other issue with the water, and this is just I've done zero research on this, but
Then I'm ready for this hot take.
yeah, is because they have so much land, they're sprawling differently than most cities kind of grow. Like if you look at Salt Lake, there's a core and then it just keeps kind of getting bigger and bigger from the core. And so infrastructure isn't necessarily stretched to its limits to where in Montana, they're like, oh, we're going to put a city over here and we're going to put a city over here and over here. And so connecting all those systems is a lot more challenging. And then, the water's just not like running down the center of all those cities. You have to collect it and move it.
It kind of is.
Kind of. Yeah, I guess kind of. But yeah, so it's water issues are everywhere. Yeah. It's everywhere.
It's true.
So we want to talk about a couple of different things. First thing I want to talk about was Big Beautiful Bill. How do you feel like it's going?
I think it's going really well.
And then you're going to toe the party line, but maybe give us some... Where do you think it's not going well and where is it going well?
I think generally it's going well. What's not going well is that the media didn't like it. Before we even passed it, the media didn't like it. And so they did a lot of really negative messaging about what was in the bill, some of it not even accurate, before people could find out what was in the bill. And it is a big bill. The two things that everybody seems to have picked up on are the claims that we were getting Medicaid and SNAP. And the claim that it would increase the deficit over time. So if you're okay, I'm just going to quickly address both of those because I know a lot of people have questions. The gutting Medicaid and SNAP thing is just not true. So what we're trying to do is get back to pre-COVID 2020 spending levels with those programs. That's not that far in the past. So during COVID, we increased spending a ton and it just hasn't gone back down. And a lot of new people have been signed up for both of those programs in the last 5 years who were never intended to be covered by those programs. So for Medicaid, if you are an able-bodied adult between 18 and 64 and you don't have dependents, you have to get a job,
work requirement,
go to school, or volunteer 80 hours a month. That isn't that difficult.
That's not a heavy lift.
If you are not an able-bodied adult, you're still covered by Medicaid. If you are a stay-at-home mom with kids under 14, you're still covered by Medicaid. So it's not, we didn't go through and gut Medicaid as it existed. We went through and basically are trying to clean up the rolls, get the people off Medicaid who weren't qualified to be on Medicaid, and the same with SNAP. So the state administers the program, the feds pay for it. So states have gotten really generous about who they're willing to sign up. Utah has a 5.7% error rate, which is the lowest. We're the only state below 6%, and 6% is the goal that we're shooting for. Excuse me. Alaska has a 60% error rate.
Yikes.
So they're signing more people.
What does it
up
mean
for
by
SNAP.
error rate?
So an error is when someone gets signed up who doesn't qualify for the program.
Okay.
So people are getting, government cheese. They're getting their food stamps, their SNAP benefits when they don't qualify for SNAP.
Which is crazy because they just get free money in Alaska. There's so many people that they get money just for living there.
Apparently milk's really expensive, but then they also get their dividend checks. So because Lisa Murkowski held out, it gives states like Alaska a couple of years to clean up their rolls before any of the penalties kick in. So I've also seen a lot of angry headlines about all of the, impacts that these SNAP cuts are having on states. They're not even in effect yet. So be very skeptical of anything like that.
Yeah, interesting.
But I have been out talking to people for the last few weeks. I've been very active meeting with chambers of commerce and businesses and groups everywhere. And for the most part, their reaction to the One Big Beautiful Bill is really good. And for several reasons, I think the truth is getting out better now. So we made the Trump tax cuts permanent. If we had let those expire, it would have been the biggest tax hike in history. And that would not have been good for families, for the economy. So we made those permanent. No tax on tips, which is actually no tax on your first $25,000 in tips, but that covers most people who work for tips.
That's a big deal too.
It is a big deal. And it's a big deal for the middle class. So, the whole idea that this bill only benefited billionaires is really disingenuous. No tax on your first $25,000 of overtime if you're filing jointly. That's a big deal for the working class. The standard deduction for seniors who are on Social Security covers the taxes that most seniors on Social Security pay. So now you're not paying taxes on your Social Security when you paid taxes the whole time you were working to earn it. Child tax credit, that's a big deal in Utah. So those are all good for the workers. And then there are things that are good for the businesses. There's, the 199A is permanent now for small businesses. The 179 deductions, like your equipment that you can write off, doubled. The death tax threshold increased, so it's easier to keep a farm in the family now. And that's,
or even just a small business.
Yeah, or a small business. So you're not going to make the sacrifices and put the blood, sweat, and tears into a farm or a business if you think the government's going to get it at your death. But if you are planning on handing it down to your kids or your grandkids, then it's worth making that sacrifice. So we've done things that are good for the workers, things that are good for the businesses. And with the tax rate locked in, that creates some certainty for people who are investing. All of that's designed to make sure we have a strong economy going forward. And a strong economy helps us reduce the deficit. So I talked about the SNAP and Medicaid thing. Then on the other side, there's does this bill actually increase the deficit over time? In order for that to be true, there's two givens in that equation. One is that if we had let the tax cuts expire, there would have been trillions of dollars of revenue coming into the government. So just for normal people speak, we would have had the government coming and taking more of your money and putting it towards the deficit to pay down the debt. Bad policy, first of all. The government never takes more money to use it to pay down the debt. It always goes out the door in some form or another. But also, it's just not true. We have plenty of experience that when the tax rate goes up, revenue actually goes down. Revenue has increased every year since the 2017 tax cuts.
Yeah.
So that's a bad assumption that went into
what
that.
was the report? There was a congressional budget report, right?
Yeah,
the
CBO.
CBO. So the CBO was saying that over 10 years, though, it was going to increase the deficit by $4 trillion. So where were they seeing it differently than?
So they're using that opportunity cost number that if we'd have let the tax cuts expire, it would have created a bunch of revenue.
Oh, that seems weird.
And they're also using a really conservative, I would say really pessimistic economic growth rate. So they're using 1.8. Even during the Biden inflationary years, it was more like 2.8. Last time Trump was in office, it was over 3.
Who's on that budget? The budget committee.
It's
Congressional Budget Office.
It's the budget office. It's bureaucrats. It's economists. And they're supposed to be a nonpartisan, kind of honest broker in this space. But
Are they appointed or are they elect? Like there's no election in there.
They're hired.
Hired.
Yeah, it's a career thing.
And who's hiring them?
But
nobody knows.
They tend to get their estimates wrong in the same direction all the time. So I'll let you draw your own conclusions from that.
Yeah, it's like the Fed.
Yeah.
It's like the Fed. We keep changing. We
Right,
have this
we
board
can't-
and we all vote. And then
we can't go down that rabbit hole.
I know.
Yeah, we don't have
for
time for that.
Yeah.
the Fed. So, okay. So, you feel like we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've seen tariff revenues explode. I think they just adjusted their forecast for collecting over $400 billion. Is that right? $400 billion in the first year
Yeah. Well,
in tariff
it hasn't
revenues.
even been a year, but the
Right, but
tariffs
their
are a
projection.
short-term thing. Like we
Yeah.
can't factor that into a long-term projection because the tariffs are a tool that the president's using right now
to turn off and turn on.
negotiate.
Mhm.
Yeah. And when we get all those deals signed with our trade partners around the world, the tariffs will be lower. So that's that's like your birthday cash from grandma. You might use it for something, but don't put it in your budget every year.
Right. But from what I heard Bessent say was basically they were going to use that money, whatever money they do capture in the interim or whatever, to go towards the deficit.
Yes. Yep.
Like they're not going to use it for anything else. It's
Nope.
like we're going to go pay down the debt.
And that's why it's not going to be used for anything else because that's not an ongoing stream.
So like the CBO, they wouldn't factor in any other additional revenue sources or anything like that, because from I think Ludnick was talking about how it was, $1 trillion in revenue, $1 trillion in cuts, and then $1 trillion somewhere else. There was the $3 trillion, 333 or something like that. Do you remember?
Yeah. I
Anyway,
don't
so
know
yeah,
that.
they're trying to raise the revenue by $1 trillion and then cut $1 trillion in the spending
Yeah.
to try to balance that out.
and create a strong economy at the same time.
Yeah.
So that economic
3%.
growth number.
It was 3%
growth.
growth.
Yeah.
That was the other three. It was
Yeah.
3% growth.
So the point of the big beautiful bill, we took on some of those mandatory spending things like Medicaid and SNAP, but we also try to create the right ecosystem for a strong economy going forward.
Mhm.
This is the palette on which you paint the Trump economy, so that businesses are strong, families have money in their bank accounts, and America's thriving and innovating and doing what we do best because you're keeping more of your own money instead of the government taking it and spending it on, an able-bodied adult being on SNAP.
Yeah. That makes sense. What was the other thing you were talking about? It was the SNAP, the Medicare, and then there was something else.
Whether it increased the deficit.
Oh
over
yeah,
time.
the increase.
And that's what we just talked
Yeah,
about.
that's right.
So the two assumptions that went into that, I think, are just wrong.
Yeah, and then it's easy to paint that into the news because you can throw a lot of headlines at all of those things, and then it makes you question the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And then people aren't talking about things like the benefits to business, the benefits to families. Everybody's panicked about are people going to be starving to death, dying in the streets?
Mm-hmm.
They won't.
Yeah. A lot of money going towards manufacturing and energy development and things like that, which I think raises red flags for a lot of conservationists and people that are worried about the environment and things like that. So
it depends on which kind of energy we're talking about. But
but I mean, I think the point being is that when you make those types of investments or changing the trajectory, we were talking to a guy who came into an open house and he's a solar guy. And he's like, Trump's, bill basically gutted solar. And it's like,
I think he said decimated.
I think was the way he described it. And I was like, I don't know about that. But
it did put it on a level playing field with other energy sources.
Right.
So if the solar industry feels like level playing field is decimating, then I think that tells you how much of an advantage they were.
Yeah, and I think from the beginning with
how inflated it was.
Well, the investments in the solar was saying it was more expensive than all these other things. So how do we get it to where it can compete? And now it can, because I think right now it's one of the cheapest energy sources.
Well, and we just need more energy. We need a true all of the above energy policy.
Yeah.
It's got to include solar and wind. It's got to include geothermal and nuclear. It's got to include coal and oil and gas. We need all of it.
Geothermal. So are you buying in, and this is, I mean, you could buy it or sell it, but the AI database, the race that we're in, do you buy in? That's where that energy is needing to be produced for?
That is definitely one of the places. So I learned a year ago, actually, that an AI search on your phone, when you type in something into your phone and it gives you the AI answer, that takes as much energy as driving an electric vehicle a kilometer.
Wow.
So if you think about all of the uses of AI and how quickly they're proliferating, we just have to produce a lot more energy than we're currently producing, which means talking about eliminating energy sources is insane, but we also have to be developing new energy sources for things like AI data hubs.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that's something, because I know there's been, I think one of the cities, they declined, I think it was Tucson, Arizona, where the city council basically stopped the data center from, like an AI data center from going in there. Do you think there's going to be pushback if those data centers start coming into Utah? Do you think the locals are going to push back against
there's
that?
some talk about
there
Delta.
Anything that doesn't get pushback?
I know, but like massive, like pushback to where it doesn't actually move forward.
I don't think so. I think Utah's going to be on the leading edge of this, and I think we should be on the leading edge of this. We're uniquely situated. You mentioned Delta. We have a lot of space in the West Desert, and we need jobs in those counties. We can produce energy. We're doing cutting edge, world leading geothermal research in Beaver County in the West Desert. We've got, energy resources in Delta that are going to be available soon. We've got the ability and the space, and not everybody has that. And
we also have resources. We also still have coal, and we still have iron, and we have a lot of minerals that still are in the hills that just stopped in the 80s because there was no money for that. But those days are coming back. Yeah.
One of the criticisms of these data centers is that they don't create a ton of jobs. They only create a few jobs. Well, a few jobs in Milford actually has a big impact.
Where their average salary is going to be $120,000 a year, where
that's huge.
The median probably wage in Milford is
you'd be the king of Milford.
Yeah, 47,000 maybe.
I don't know. There's railroad jobs there, but
it's true.
Oh, that's true.
There's pig farmer jobs too.
Most of those are gone now. That's actually a touchy subject. But 8 jobs in Tucson, maybe that's just not worth it to them. Maybe in Tucson, where their property values are really high, they can turn their nose up at that. But I don't think we should.
Yeah.
I think we should be developing resources and be enabling the wave that is coming. We know it's coming. We're going to need more energy. We're going to need more data.
Well, and Rocky Mountain Power has talked about their fees going up. In historically, Utah has been an exporter of energy, and over the last decade, they've slowly exported less and less energy over time. And I think in some places they're importing energy. It's not a full net exporter of energy. So I think it'll be an interesting development as we go through. So speaking of that's going to require land that is locked up by the government,
It might.
in your neck in the woods, right?
Yeah.
And so I know you put an amendment in. Was it in the big beautiful bill that the amendment was in?
It was
and then
in the natural resources title
right
of the reconciliation bill, which is the one big beautiful bill.
right. And so you put that amendment in, and then it got pulled out.
Yes.
And so now it's still in committee. Is that where it's at?
It's dead.
It's dead.
So
Okay.
To clarify, though, it's not Mike Lee's bill. It's not
No.
an amendment to Mike Lee's bill at all. It's completely
Separate.
No, and it does get confusing. So let me explain how that worked. So I'm on the Natural Resources Committee. We were in charge of one of the 11 titles that went into that bill, and I offered an amendment. Actually, Mark Amadei from Nevada offered it for both of us. That would have disposed of about 10,000 acres in Utah, targeted pieces for infrastructure, most of them in Washington County. We worked with the county and some of the cities to come up with what they needed for infrastructure. And then we offered that as an amendment. The messaging on it got out of control really quickly. There were a lot of conservation groups that just didn't want any land disposed. And the social media firestorm around it grew very quickly to where there were rumors that we were selling off hunting lands and fishing properties and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But they were small parcels close to cities for the most part.
Can I pull up
and
that
for
map?
Infrastructure. Sure.
Can
go
we look
ahead.
at it?
Yeah.
So there's in the bill there was
Speaking of AI, there's Grok.
there's Grok. I do a lot of my research. Honestly, AI is really helpful for research, and
It
so
is.
I do a lot of my research.
It's also ironic you said that it's equivalent to driving a kilometer because you can get Grok in your Tesla now.
Yeah.
So you
well,
can drive
so
it
now you're
and-
just doubling it up.
And the
Doubling it
reason
up,
I know
yeah.
it in kilometers is because I learned this tip in Scandinavia. As an American, I don't think in kilometers
No.
very well. If we could measure it in bald eagles or football fields or something that I
Yeah,
understand,
yeah,
better,
yeah.
that'd be more helpful.
Okay, so the bill had land conveyances to the Water Conservancy District, the state of Utah, and the county, right?
Yeah. So
So-
these were two.
So they weren't going to
Governments.
private individuals.
No, and it wouldn't be like an auction situation. It'd be a fair market value sale.
Right.
Governments for infrastructure.
For infrastructure. Now
Yeah.
it got conflated with like housing, and there was like this conversation around it's going to go for
Okay.
affordable housing.
Yeah,
How did
I
that go?
develop
forgot-
all the land.
I forgot.
Yeah.
I got caught up and didn't tell the rest of the story. So
My
I
bad.
introduced that amendment. Well, Amadei and I introduced that amendment, and it got stripped out of the House version of the bill in the manager's amendment. So the final version of the one big beautiful bill that we passed out of the House to send to the Senate didn't have that in it. It was stripped out. When it got to the Senate side, Senator Lee, who is the chairman of Energy and Natural Resources Committee on the Senate side, so this is his jurisdiction, offered a different amendment that would have allowed land to be used for housing. And it was also narrow, but the messaging on that one really spun out of control on social media.
Like super fast.
Yeah, and there were maps out there. We were talking
Because
about
I think it
this.
got leaked, right? Like he didn't even have like the full proposal done, and it was like he was in conversation, and then something got leaked ahead of time, and then
Maybe.
it
I
like
don't-
got out in front of him or something like that.
The Senate side's so much different. I don't remember. I don't think it got leaked. But what happened is all of a sudden people started sharing these maps on social media. There were
Mhm.
no maps with his amendment. His amendment allowed local governments to nominate pieces. So it didn't say what those pieces would be. It had
Mhm.
some sideboards on what qualified. But there were maps that started being shared everywhere that showed basically all of the public land.
Yeah.
And so the narrative started to be like the national parks and blue ribbon fisheries and, wilderness areas are all going to be sold off. And it just grew so quickly. It turned into this crazy PR campaign of which I have never seen the likes.
Yeah.
And it all happened fast enough that people mixed up my amendment and Senator Lee's amendment, but mine was dead before it ever got to the Senate.
Mhm.
Then his got stripped out in the Senate. Neither one of us had our amendments in the final version. So the
Mhm.
one big beautiful bill did not include any land sales.
And the amendment from the Nevada representative, what was his name?
Mark Amadei.
Amadei. He had presented something similar, I think, in like 2023. Like I think he's been like Northern Nevada. I mean, he's been trying to get land back from Bureau of Land Management for a long time. It's not like this is like a new battle. This is a battle that
Nevada
seems to keep
has
coming
a
up.
higher percentage of public land than any other state.
Yeah.
They're constantly trying to find ways to dispose of land, is what you call it, to dispose of public land for infrastructure and other things in Nevada. And that was its own. Nevada has its own politics that are different than Utah land politics. But yes, Mark Amadei and I offered ours together. and they got stripped out together.
Which is crazy because if you look at the maps, right, you can read the articles about what it is and what it's going to damage and all these things. But this is one of the maps that I thought was like, oh my gosh, why would we not want to do this? So we need land for if you could see in the middle, it's the Graveyard Dam. So we have land that's adjacent to the Graveyard Wash, which is like essential to our reuse water system, but is locked up by Bureau of Land Management. So for us to be able to progress forward, we need an act of the Department of the Interior to allow us to move forward. All the NEPA processes and all these other things that are required that strips it out of our complete control, that also allows for all these other out-of-state entities, conservation organizations to like pour money into lobbying against these things. So we don't get to control it at all.
Or to negotiate for something like more wilderness or more protection somewhere else in exchange for something we need.
Which is funny because we've done that before and it backfired in our face when you talk about the Northern Corridor. In my opinion, it was like we negotiated in good faith, and then all of a sudden now we're fighting two fronts, and we might end up losing the best part of the whole thing because we started this whole battle between the Northern Corridor and Zone 6. But that's different episodes. Go back in time. I covered that in plenty.
But you're right as far as the sentiment goes, and that's a conversation I had with a lot of these groups that were opposed to my amendment. I called them all into my office. We sat down and talked. And that's the conversation I had with a lot of them. They don't know this history. And so it sounds really reasonable to say, well, we shouldn't just be including it in reconciliation where it'll get sold for fair market value and that the price of it will go towards paying down the debt. We should be doing land swaps, or we should be doing a negotiation with these conservation groups. And what they don't know is that Washington County already did that negotiation. I mean, that was supposed to be the land bill to end all of these negotiations. And it's been done for 15 years, 16 years.
Yeah, and we're still battling.
With
no end in sight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, context matters.
Yeah, it does. And then, in good faith negotiations, you end up like, why would we go down that road already? We already got egg on our face. We're going to go down a different road. And this one's interesting because if you look at the maps, if you truly, if you were to just look at the maps, you could easily see in a blink of an eye that this is for infrastructure and not for development and land selling off. Now, this is a water conservancy district. So you got land out here on the south edge of the very south border of Utah and Arizona. You got a big block of land there, adjacent to Utah Trust lands and other BLM lands. You have parcels out by the Graveyard Wash that we talked about. There's a small parcel up by Cayenta, which I'm guessing is for water, like a water tower or some other kind of water capture.
That's the ironic thing about a lot of this is some of those same groups that opposed the land sale amendment are really supportive of the water reuse plan.
Water reuse.
But we can't do the water reuse plan if we don't have places
and
to build things.
Everything right here, like the land all adjoining Quail Reservoir, is like, why would you think we would need the land next to the Quail Reservoir? Why?
And a lot of the people that I saw too on social media that were whining and complaining about the land sale are the same people that don't want the government to own land.
Yeah. No, I was also surprised by that.
But we want to protect the land, which I get. And it is part of what makes us unique, right? And so you're like, there's this conundrum that you just run into where you're like, there's not really an easy answer to this complex situation. You're going to have pros and cons of each. But if you just look at the map, like, and then this is the last one, I think, because this was conveyance to the county. West half to the county. These are all roads. These are all lands adjacent to roads.
And trails.
So
a lot of this was to make trails that help people get out on our public land and enjoy it.
Yeah.
But before people understood that, they already decided they opposed it.
Right.
And that was a lesson learned for me.
Yeah.
I've got more work to do on the front end. I mean, this one kind of came together the way it did for a lot of political reasons, but there's work to do on the front end to make sure people understand, if
you got to win the room.
Land,
there's something about winning the room on that.
You do.
Ironically, you need to be more political.
Jeez.
I'm learning.
Jeez. We all are. Okay.
Which is dumb to say.
I think because we only got a little bit of time left. The last thing, because I live in Ivins, and this is important to not everybody listening. So if you're not on the west side, this might not be interesting to you. But if you're water and all these other things, so you ran a bill for the Shivowitz band of the Paiute Indians in order to allow them to basically develop their land, right? To allow them to have legal authority to make investments.
Yeah.
Did I boil that down fair enough?
Yeah, it's a quirk of Indian law that the states don't necessarily have jurisdiction over what happens on tribal land.
Right.
And the result of that sometimes is that tribes can't develop their resources or develop their economy because if you enter into a contract with a tribe, sometimes it's an unenforceable contract because
So like if
of
a
the
city,
jurisdiction
because if
issue.
a city it gets in a contract with the tribe, then now there's
they may not be able
jurisdiction.
to enforce it. And so then it's tough to invest if your investors are concerned that they can't enforce the contract in the long run. So the Shivowitz band came and asked me for help and said, we want to do a selective waiver of our jurisdiction to allow these contracts to be under the jurisdiction of state courts.
And just for all of the conspiracy theorists, it wasn't Reef Capital that came to you.
No.
This was the Shivowitz band
This was the
that
Shivowitz
came
band.
to you.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, Reef Capital wants to cash out on this opportunity, and they're like, hey,
I wonder where that originated from.
I know. I just honestly in my head, I'm just like, what would everybody be thinking, right? It's like, because it's like always follow the money. But I also see what the Shivowitz reservation is trying to do and what they've tried to do over the last 2 decades. So I believe you on that, but I just on the record so everybody knows.
Yeah. Well, and then it also gets confusing because the Shivowitz band is one of 5 bands of Paiutes in Utah. And they have a common governing structure that the federal government created for them and told them this is their governing structure. And
Classic.
so then the Shivowitz want this. The Paiute Indian tribes of Utah said they would support it. Then when we introduced the Paiute Indian tribes of Utah wrote a letter that said they didn't support it. I think they've now changed their mind and supported it again. But that gets confusing to people who aren't in the weeds on this all the time. Because if any of this was easy, then, everyone would run for office. And there would be nothing to talk about on Facebook.
Exactly. That's right. So the bill has passed.
It has been introduced.
It's
it hasn't
introduced.
passed yet.
Okay. So will they pick it up at the back half of the year?
I don't know. So we had the committee hearing on it. It came out of committee. So now it just needs to go to the floor at some point.
So, and the reason I asked that question is because they proposed to do a resort and a golf course and development on the Shivowitz land. But the likelihood of them doing that is kind of seems to me contingent upon whether this bill passes or not, right?
I would assume so. I'm not part of any of those negotiations, but I would assume that until this passes, they're probably not going to do any big investments.
Yeah, that would make sense.
And this isn't unique to the Paiute bands in Utah. This is something that happens in a lot of places. I was in another meeting last week with another group that had a similar, the tribes want to protect their sovereignty, but sometimes in limited circumstances, it makes sense to waive that sovereignty so that they can have an economy.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be debanked. Nobody wants to be debanked. No. You got to be able to be part of the economy.
We don't have time for that rabbit hole.
We don't have time for that rabbit hole. Okay, with what we got left, you want to talk about the 250? Do we got time?
Yeah.
250th anniversary.
Yeah. So on the 4th of July this next year, that's the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, roughly. There's going to be somebody who watches this and wants to come argue with me that it was July 2nd, or that they didn't all sign on the same day, but we're celebrating it on the 4th of July because 250 years later, that is the day we recognize. But I'm really excited about this, and I am planning on spending a lot of my political capital over the next couple of years reminding people of what this country has accomplished in 250 years. We, speaking of rabbit holes and social media and the contention that surrounds politics, it's really easy, and it often happens that we get hung up on the things we want to improve about our system of government, about our country, about our culture, about our society. And I want to use this opportunity to refocus us all on how amazing it is that for 250 years, we have been testing the proposition that humans can govern themselves. You don't have to have certain bloodlines or have been born in a certain place or to a certain family. And that the individual, the dignity and the freedom of the individual should be the basis of government.
Yeah.
That was a radical idea when our founding fathers decided to build a nation around it. And 250 years later, look how much different the whole world looks because they were willing to bet it all, so to speak, on this proposition. And I want to spend the next 2 years really focusing in on that because it's also really popular right now to talk about how civilizations start to fade at 250 years. And there seems to be a fair amount of cynicism and even fatalism floating around the internet and social media about the future of this country. But I think if we spend more time looking at the the history and the past of our country, we've easily got 250 more years in us.
Yeah, the things we've overcome are pretty insane.
Yeah.
Like if you really think about it, like we had the Civil War, like how did we dig out of that one?
We
dug out
more
just fine.
divided than we are right now.
Absolutely.
We are not lining up and shooting each other right now.
Assassinated presidents, the Wild West, like all these crazy things that we've overcome.
Yes.
And what does it look like now? It's like
Great Depression.
Yeah, the Great Depression.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just there's countless examples of things that we've overcome and kept the union together.
Yeah.
And where other countries have not done that.
Throw around the term unprecedented a lot right now.
Oh yeah,
but very few things are actually unprecedented. We've been through a lot of trials as a country, and our institutions have held. Yeah. The Republic has held against all odds sometimes. And I'm just excited about the opportunity we have to stop and focus on that for the next little while. So I'm inviting all of your listeners to join me in celebrating America's 250th birthday. Put the cynicism down for a little bit.
Where do we go? Where do we party? Are we going to Liberty Village? Are you,
that would be a great place to do it.
We should have a party at Liberty Village. They open September 13th, everybody for listening out there.
Right in time for Constitution Day.
Yeah, September 13th, first phase of the Liberty Village.
Yeah.
That should be cool.
And I love that they're inviting people to go learn our actual history. We do spend a lot of time focusing on the times we've gotten it wrong, and it is valuable to study those and learn from them. But I want to spend some time studying all the ways we've gotten it right so that people will feel that not just the pride in our country, but also the responsibility and the duty we have as Americans to keep that going. The rest of the world is still looking to us to prove that self-governance and individual freedom can work long-term.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, that kind of wraps.
That's a good note to end on.
That is a good note to end on. It's 4:00.
Thanks guys.
Thanks for coming.
Perfect. It's always fun.
I hope it's good. I hope we covered some good stuff. Thanks for coming on.
No problem.
We'll see you again.
Yeah, we'll
do this again. An hour though. We got to do an hour.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Next time I will schedule more time.
We'll schedule more time. I'll make sure these guys schedule us more time.
We'll have more pictures, maybe some like moving graphics.
Yeah, maybe. My guys can edit some stuff in there. They can have some stuff jumping
around.
Yeah,
we'll have snacks. We do have our drinks.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Hope this was helpful, everybody. We'll see you out there, guys. Thanks for listening in. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. Make sure you're following us on all the social media websites. We love your support. We love the dialogue. We want to continue that going.
Find us at realestate435.com. We'd love to help you find a house here in town or help you get wherever you're going.